In the beginning of part 2, Dreamseeker immediately gets teleported into Senadina's palace and then is told she will save the world, which makes us question why Dreamseeker? She seems like a relatively normal college student, right? In the latest trailer, it shows all of the shoes dying in a horrifying way, but at the end there is a shot of Dreamseeker opening her eyes, leading most people to the conclusion that it's not real, the 7 shoes dying is all a dream, and they'll be just fine. However, the truth isn't that black and white and is actually more worrying than you might think. The shortest and simplest way I can put this is Dreamseeker is like Subaru from ReZero and Max from Life is Strange. But if you want the lengthy description and all the context to why this is, then be sure to watch till the end of this video. Before we talk about Dreamseeker, we have to talk about these two, because they mention Dreamseeker a lot. These two are an enigma. There are only 3 scenes with them so far, and they seem to be watching the story and reacting to it as it's happening. They're talking about dreams within dreams, calls the Dreamseeker a star whisperer, talks about time and prophecies, while also saying they will impact the story and going back to where the dream began, implying that they saw the future and know everything that is going to happen. It's very confusing, but stay with me. Going back to Dreamseeker, there's this moment where an NPC recognizes the name Dreamseeker and tells us that the Dreamseekers are a group of chosen ones who can travel back through time. They enter someone's dreams and emerge through another person's dreams to go back in time and observe everything in history. Dreams? Traveling back in time, observing everything? That all sounds a bit familiar. The devs actually confirm it right here, their dream-seeking journey. They're both dream seekers just like our main character. At the beginning, they talk about certain dreams in which, at the height of one person's despair, they will wake up on their beds and realize that their future could go multiple different ways. From my understanding, Lambda and Vita are fellow dream seekers observing Dreamseeker to see how she fares with her dream seeker powers. And it seems like she is about to use them for the very first time based on the trailer. I'd say the 7 shoes dying right in front of her eyes would be the height of her despair, wouldn't you? Once she sees all of them die horrifically in that dream, she will wake up in her bed, aka emerge from another dream that seems parallel to the other dream, except in this one everyone's okay and happy, but that other dream is fricked. The shadows won in that one and everyone's dead. Let's back up a bit here and establish some rules. They use the word dream in the game because you're waking up in your bed like it was all a dream, but replace the word dream with timeline in your head for this video so that you're hopefully a little less confused. What Dreamseeker is going to have to do after she wakes up is change things to make sure that whatever led to that ending never happens again. They call her a star whisperer, which I didn't even know what that meant until Homolab's latest video. Star whisperers are people born from the Sea of Quanta. What does that mean for Dreamseeker? I don't know, I'm just a messenger in this scenario. Ask him, he's the one who fell in the sea. They even telepathically communicate with Dreamseeker in the bad ending of chapter 2. What's that? You didn't know there even was a bad ending? I don't blame you. I've only found one video on it and nothing else. It's by this dude named Matt is Playing. It's in Chinese, but Matt did translate it for us, so thank you, Matt. Remember when we were in the Haven of Love and we had the option to dive deeper or leave and return back to reality? If you choose leave back to reality, she thinks to to herself that even though she's gotten along with the team, she hasn't gotten to the point of risking her life to save them. As she continues down this line of thinking, the text suddenly goes red and it says, "No one is an eternal companion in the midst of reincarnation." I'm sorry, what? As I said, I believe this is one of these two interfering with her mind. Furthermore, I think it's Vita, and I'll tell you why in her section of the video. For now, I'm going to reference ReZero again here because I really think this story is very similar. In episode 5, Subaru has a nice walk in the park with Rem where they bond and have a great time. But then he dies again, loops, Rem now has no memory of the park, and Subaru's upset about it. It's the same thing here. Vita's telling Dreamseeker, hey, you're in the midst of one of your dreams right now. If you die and go back in time, no one's going to remember if you did any favors for them or saved them, and you'll reverse what you thought was progress, so why bother? This is the bad ending though. If she leaves them in Sarah's consciousness for over 2 millennia, she gets shot by Lantern immediately. So the true answer is bonding and friendship in this case. That doesn't mean we should disregard this information as it could be foreshadowing for a future case. Lambda and Vita are acting like elder figures here, talking like they have experienced all of this before. Since they're dream seekers themselves, they have. In fact, now that we know Lambda is a dream seeker, it makes 90% of her dialogue in the Moon arc make more sense. In chapter 32, she appears before Seele and immediately calls her by name despite no introductions. When Seele questions this, she says that she saw her future in the Sea of Quanta, and that talking about time is tricky because she perceives the past and future differently than everyone else. She says there's not much she can do at this time, alluding that she can help at a future point, and she came here to help Seele and everybody to stop Project Stigma, which is not a good sign since our understanding of their power so far is that they need to be at the height of their despair in order to switch dreams, and after they have, to make sure that horrible thing never happens again. Did she see Seele and everyone die because Project Stigma succeeded? The knowledge that I have gained at this point is not what you seek. Yeah, cause you wouldn't want to hear about your own corpse now, would you? The future she saw isn't very bright, kid, don't worry about it. The future is woven out of the past and chance. Yeah, because you are now weaving it by sending the cast in the right direction to be able to stop Project Stigma. At this point, you may be thinking to yourselves, since Project Stigma succeeded at first and she went back to help us, and Project Stigma failed this time around, did the trio even matter in the project failing, or was it all her doing? The trio did matter, they were crucial in Kevin's fall. Lambda just lightly nudged them in the right direction, hinted and gave more ideas for them to utilize. That way, it would still be them that saved the Earth. Besides, if she took a bigger role, that would probably mess with the future a bit too much. In chapter 35, we got to see what it's like inside a pseudo-time crystal. In it, there are threads surrounding her. Each thread represents someone's entire story. And you know what the devs called this place? The Dreamland. That's a direct connection to part 2 in all this talk about dreams, baby. Not to mention the obvious, she looks like and is an older version of the tutorial girl. She's still doing the tutorials in part 2. Some things never change. From the girl and the battleship at dusk to the origin and finality under the starry sky. I really like this quote because it's a very nice reference to the title of the first chapter. Wait, are they saying that Lambda has been here this entire time? That's 6 years. years? Has she been chilling up until this moment? If she has been with us this entire time on the sidelines and knew everything that was going to happen from the very start, and she's acting the same way in part 2, then everything in this entire game so far has all been the past for this woman. So if that's true, where is she from, or when is she from? I assumed she went back in time solely to stop Project Stigma, but she's ready to stop another catastrophe that will happen in the future of part 2 by the sounds of it. Did she not reach the height of her despair when everyone died from Project Stigma and just continued on living? First off, asshole. Second off, she had to reach the height of her despair at one point, right? If she rewound time by 6+ years, is she trying to stop a catastrophe that happens way in the future that nobody knows about? Let's go back to the question, when is she from? Is she from the Apo days? Do the Sky people screw us over? Or is she farther than that? Is there something after the Sky people that we don't know about yet? We may have a lot of questions about her still, but I can't lie, it is liberating to finally learn something about a character that's been a complete mystery for almost 2 years at this point. The sad part of all of this is, she spent all of part 1 alone with no friends, and that had to be tough, which is why I bet she's glad that she has a friend now. If you've noticed, I made a giant contradiction right at the beginning of this video. We spent the entirety of the last section establishing that Lambda knows everything that's going on, but I also claimed that they were reacting to everything that's happening like it's their first time seeing it. They're shocked like they didn't expect something, they're appalled by Litost. What's happening here? Well, what if I told you that Lambda is the only one that knows what's happening? First of all, Lambda calls Vita a guest, which means this ship isn't owned by the two of them, it's hers. Second of all, she's the one who asks all the questions.
例えば、夢から生まれた聖母者とかよく言うよ。こんなに遠回りしたのに何か誤解してる？私はただこの世界に未来予知は存在すると思う？運命の定めがあったとしても運命の意図がより良い結果をもたらすならそうすると夢を追うことってなんだか別の意味がある気がするんだけど。
One of the first lines of these two is Lambda scolding Vita because she's using the eyes of Bodhi to snoop. These are not things someone would do if they knew what was happening. These are all little bite-sized pieces of evidence, though the major one that really sells this theory is her posture. Lambda and Vita appear in the first chapter twice. The first time, Vita is laying back, is reading a book, eyes toward Lambda, half interested, multitasking between reading the book and listening to Lambda. The next time they show up is after Dreamseeker and the gang find out Chenxue and Oxia are connected, and Vita is now sitting up. She's not reading her book anymore, eyes on Lambda. She looks interested, and getting Vita interested is a very tough feat. If you remember in chapter 42, Saw tells us that Vita gets bored very quickly if she manages to foresee the outcome of something. She looks the exact opposite of bored here, which means she cannot foresee what's coming up next. Meanwhile, Lambda is in the same position both times, looking like everything is as it should be. I can also conclude that all of the reactions are all Vita's doing. In chapter 39, it was revealed that Vita has the power to take over the narrator's position. I think she's doing that again. Anytime one of the two talks about knowing what's going to happen, it's always Lambda. I like this moment where she says something good is happening right now. Lambda's that annoying friend that spoils a show for you when you're watching it together. Oh, this is the good part, pay attention. I would shame her for that, but it's been 6 years. She finally has a friend. She needs this. If Lambda knows everything while Vita does not, what does that mean? I don't know. That's as far as I got before my brain exploded. If this is true, Lambda's right. Time crystals aren't symmetrical, and that just throws another layer of confusion into this mess. This means Vita is in her own time crystal, and thus she has a totally different set of dreams than Lambda. Imagine Subaru getting his return by death powers in the first episode, right? Then somewhere along the line, a second Subaru comes along that got his return by death powers later than the first one. And so all of the times the second one died and all of his reset points are completely different than the first one. Vita is the second Subaru here. The only question I have left is, where is the evidence that she was always a Dreamseeker? Well, she was introduced in part 1.5. She is a clone of Saw and wasn't born naturally, so that fits in with the Dreamseeker's existence as being different from humans. In chapter 39, Prometheus asked Vita why she was so weak, and to that Vita says she is not stronger than her own creation, but then Prometheus sniffs out that lie, saying that even though Vita is 1% of the Kakuna finality, that's definitely not all she has. Vita admits that this is a lie, but does not explain and says even if she revealed everything about herself, they still wouldn't be able to stop her, which is insane. In this one line, Prometheus accidentally revealed that Vita was stronger than Saw in some way. In chapter 42, Fuhua and Gricio defeated Saw first try seamlessly. Or did they? Because during the boss fight, this happens.
落ちてきた。
不破お姉ちゃん、早くする。
カウントダウンが間に合わない。
僕ったら我が創造心よ、まさか東映の
Vita comes on and says she'll help them, and does exactly that by rewinding time and helping them after she's done rewinding. Fuhua and Gricio get confused, and after the fight, no one acknowledges or even thanks Vita for what she did, because, like the other characters of ReZero, they think that everything is just one straight timeline where they went in to defeat Saw and did so on the first try. As soon as Vita is done rewinding time, this symbol shows up for a split second, and that symbol looks very similar to the symbol in the book she is reading in part 2. Even though all of this is clear, I still have one question. Why is she even here? Doesn't she have 7 siblings to look over? You're a terrible goddess. The last person I want to touch on is Chenxue. She took care of Dreamseeker since she was a baby, but besides that, they both study the Sea of Data together. She's Dreamseeker Senior, so a mentor figure. Wait a minute, a mentor figure? That reminds me of someone. At the end of chapter 2, Chenxue mentions time crystals while explaining to Dreamseeker what the box of memories in time operates on, which is interesting. There are these books all across Oxia that you can collect. One of these books is titled A Message from Chenxue. At a glance, it seems like a message about how source matter is an amazing resource, but also elusive, uncertain, and you can last a long time in this field of work without finding anything at all. However, at the beginning, she says the longer it takes Dreamseeker to see this message, the better. And this is based on a feeling, so it is most likely wrong. But the last 2 lines seem way too dramatic for this message. At the end of this so-called first lesson, I still want to say, fly, soar to the highest you ever know. Lessons? Oh, that also reminds me of something. Do you all agree that this is a little too dramatic? Because Dreamseeker is in college. I'm sure she already knows all about this. So there's no reason to make such a big deal out of this, right? She writes that Dreamseeker will fall for a long time. Fall is a word used in a variety of different scenarios, but I believe the only time we have seen this word in part 2 is when Lambda was talking about it, referencing dreams. I feel like she's talking about something else but is trying to be discreet about it. Does she know about the Dreamseeker's powers? Also, soar to the highest you ever know. Does she perhaps also want us to stay alive bravely? No? Okay, just making sure. Besides that, I don't have that much to talk about regarding her. There are multiple theories out there stating that she is much stronger than she appears to be, and the evidence to support that claim is there, but that's not really the topic of this video, so instead I'll link this video in the description by the nameless Caslana talking about it. It's really good, though there's one thing off about it, which is that he says this.
She was able to find the true identity of Chenxue, even though none of the other characters were able actually to find out who she is. Chenxue was able to immediately tell us that she is actually the shoe of deception, which is very interesting because how could you find out within 2 seconds who that character is?
The 7 shoes are a well-known legend in Oxia. They have been documented, and although most of it is vague, there is still some credible documentation, such as who they are and what their power is. Apart from that though, the video is great, go watch it. I know, there's now a time travel plot in a story that is already filled with confusing plot lines. It's Jover. In all seriousness, I really hope I explained this to you in a way that was not super confusing. There are definitely more to the Dreamseekers than we know right now. There are more Dreamseekers than just these 3. We are only 2 chapters deep into part 2 right now, so this plotline is just beginning. I just wanted to explain what we have of them so far and what we can imply from that information. That's all from me for this video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed for more content just like this, and I will see you all in chapter 3.